are reducing, if not a non-issue, in our development space. Thank you.
He did well. Please give him a big clap. He did well. His slides should have been up and they weren't up. So we are now at the end of our formal presentations, but just to kind of wrap up in terms of what was presented on both of them, while electricity is definitely not the normal mode of intervention for housing, one of the things that I'm starting to recognize is that we have to do things incrementally because there is the notion that there isn't enough money out there for us to do housing fully. Quite frankly, I would love if we could just get the houses and not necessarily have to do programs like this. But what I am finding is that when we do programs like this, it does give the communities the opportunity to learn life skills, right? Which is a huge part of you doing housing development and you implementing housing units. So it is a good start considering where we are with a lot of the communities in terms of them getting regularized with getting electricity. I'm hoping that eventually as the best practices go on, we can start to do even more than just providing them with electricity. But this is an excellent start for them considering what is happening now is that in many situations the houses are burnt down because they don't have access to proper electricity, right? So in the interim, it teaches the residents how to pay for the electricity, get their life skills going, and it also impacts education. So those are things that we haven't fully touched on, but it does have that impact. In regards to Salina and Richard, in terms of what they presented on, really and truly the best practice for squatting and squat upgrading, even though I like to say informal settlements more, is that approach requires hand-holding. And that is what both of these agencies are doing. HAJ, I can say firsthand, is going out and taking persons through the process of getting their land titles. Definitely for the BRACE program, they have taken the residents from the start to the end. When we can actually go into Nagahead fully, these residents will probably be more prepared than a lot of them that are in other communities because of what Habitat has done. And they have put in a very good collaborative effort in terms of getting housing put into these communities, starting from scratch, and then hopefully we can build on it. So the best practice is collaboration in getting this effort going. Right now, the time is here for Q&A. I am seeing some of the panelists. I don't know where Richard Jones is, but do we have any questions? Can the panelists make their way to the front, please, just in case there are any questions? Salina, I see you seated quite comfortably. If we can just move up quickly so that we can stick to this schedule. Richard Jones, I'm seeing him outside. Can someone please just signal to him for me? He's right by the door. Can you just signal to Richard Jones? Lenworth Black. Richard, you need to come up to the front. All right, we have one mic, so I'll probably have to move around for us to address some of this. Unfortunately, Donald and CTD is gone. But do we have any immediate questions to the panel or even to myself in regards to housing and where Jamaica is going, what the agencies are doing that are here, however it is that you think that potentially we can improve what we're doing. We know that there is lots of room for improvement, so I'm leaving it to you guys to ask questions. If you could just raise your hands if you're interested. Okay, 1 second. And when you have raised your hands and you're coming to ask questions, can you just give your name and what organization you're from?
Patrine Cole from the Planning Institute. I have a question for Salina. I was just wondering why Nagahead was chosen. I know you had to rush to your presentation, but I'm just trying to get an understanding of why that particular committee was chosen for the pilot.
It's only one.
before, in order for us to start the project, we had to do a project proposal on the basis of selecting actually 3 communities, which we started in Gregory Park, Newland, and Nagahead, was because it was found by Mona Geoinformatics to be the most vulnerable communities in Jamaica, I believe. Not just Portmore, right, Doc? The most vulnerable communities in Jamaica in terms of disaster risk to hazard to hurricanes and major events like that. And when we started working in the 3 communities, actually Nagahead was selected for this further intervention of land tenure and capacity building and redevelopment planning because of the excellent mobilization that was done by our field operations manager, who is actually here today, Mr. Damian Williams. Because the community was so primed for the intervention because of the capacity building that was done, the community groups that were in the heavy sensitization on the project, we went with Nagahead of the 3 initial communities.
Any more questions on housing? Yes, okay, great. 1 second.
The name is Colin Lyons from Caribbean Maritime University. In terms of our housing stocks, what are we doing in terms of safety? We notice a number of houses with one exit, the high-rise ones. Are we doing something about those?
Anybody want to address it? Lenworth, do you want to? And also, okay, and then you can, all right.
Mr. Barbic, will you be kind enough to address this one for me, please?
And Damian.
Safety is kind of wide.
Talking about exits, for you find building one exit, one door you enter, you can't get out except that one. You look at high-rise building.
But there are building codes to govern that.
That's all. You see a number of them around. What are we doing about those?
Right. There are. Okay, I am actually going to answer that just a little bit for you. Dwayne did give a partial answer in terms of saying that there are building codes for it, right? But with that said, though, Mr. Burbick, and I'm not very good at fudging things, right? We have a problem with constructing. Right? I know that Donald isn't here, but we are aware, particularly when we're doing housing for particular populations, we probably need to spend more in designing better. I can speak from HAJ that right now we're having a lot of discussions, and I don't even like to say it because it's superficial, but there are you go to meetings with NHT, HAJ, other agencies, international funders, and we speak about redesigning communities, redesigning housing for safety and crime issues that you're addressing. Donald touched on the whole issue in regards to going with high rises. Quite frankly, I'm not a fan of high rises for particular communities, okay? How you distribute those high rises will make a big difference. So we're looking at those situations in terms of how high do you go? How many doors do you put in if it's an apartment? How many windows do you put in? Do you put in exits at the back in terms of like for fire hazards? So what I can say to you is that discussions are ongoing. We are aware of the problems that you're speaking about, and based on the community design and what the residents come to us with, I think that there's we are going to be adapting to that over time. So it's not being ignored. I don't know if I've addressed your question to a certain extent, but it is a problem. It's a problem, a big problem. Agreed. Damian probably has.
In terms of participatory approaches to safe shelter awareness, what we have been doing in the communities that we work in Portmore is helping residents to understand through doing a historical timeline of the hazards that they have experienced, and fire is one of them. The importance of exits, the importance of having more than one entrance exit to your house. And what they have been doing with their own resources and with resources that we've provided is adding those additional exits. Because sometimes it's all about take a lot. $75 is our voucher allotment. And people would match that, leverage that, and be making those kinds of changes in their existing structures through retrofits. So those are things we perhaps can consider in our programs when we go in, not just go in and give them something, but also be involved in an education process that will change mindsets.
And I think that's a good spin, because a lot of our residents have existing houses with these exits that are not good, right? So I think that is a very good point to take, how it is that we address it with them. But for the new buildings that we're putting up, those things are definitely up for discussion. But that's very important, very, very important.
And just to add though, from the NHT's perspective, what we found is that many of our older schemes did not have this kind of layout and this kind of thinking initially. So we have a current project that we'll be rolling out. We're looking back at our 50 oldest schemes, and we're going through them to redesign where we can redesign, to put in certain social amenities, to put in some of these exits you're talking about, and to really just make them more comfortable and more current with the current building codes and best practices as it relates to construction of schemes.
Can I ask you to come up, please? Sorry, thank you. I'll just ask you to walk up.
I'm from Morris Meadows. My name is Dane Stone, president of the association. My question to the housing developers and also to the other people with the technical know-how. In my area, Morris Meadows, that's coming off the I-95, heading west, going to Spanish Town. 10 City, Phoenix gas station. That roads take you straight into Spanish Town. The issues that we're having here now, and the question is, one, during the time when these housing schemes were being built, I don't know if there were that much infrastructure in terms of road network to take commuters from this area. I personally believe that most of the people that live within this area works within Kingston, in the Kingston area. That's my personal belief. In the morning when you get out of Morris Meadows, for example, it takes about a half an hour between Morris Meadows to get to Portmore Town Centre, over half an hour. One reason, traffic is crazy. The question is, when you were doing these houses, it seemed to me there weren't much planning in terms of widening the road to make the infrastructure better and for water situation in that area. Right now, as I left this morning, it was flooded all over. That is a question to NHT and other developers. And the second part, I hope that you get the question that I'm asking. The second part is, even now, as I stand here, there are two other developments taking place. On the south side of Caribbean Estate, heading to Spanish Town, is one scheme going up there, over 1,000 houses, I understand. Morris Meadows is 528, and beside it is another scheme which is 226 houses. That's over 3,000 people. Imagine 3 per household, practically 1,500 vehicles getting out of that road. With the present situation and the expansion with the other housing scheme coming up, as you get through the Phoenix gas station and you're left, there's another development to take place there with over 500 houses, I understand. How are we going to manage with the road structure coming out? And it's now taking us a half an hour to get out of Morris Meadows, which is just 5 minutes drive on a normal circumstance to get to the nearest gas station. How are we going to manage?
No, I was just about to say, actually, but hold on, Lenworth seems to want to take a stab at that.
The issue of roadways and water, there's always consultation with the National Water Commission when housing development is taking place. Roadway, as a matter of fact, that is considered that there's access roadway. I can understand what's happening in Morris Meadows. it wouldn't be the respite or the responsibility of National Housing Trust to make. They don't make roadways. Housing Trust build houses and use access. The access road to and from the communities would be the responsibility of another agency, which is the National Work Agency. Now, if the National Work Agency is not building roads, because essentially, if you look at the highway from Spanish Town, Mandela Highway, it's a constant flow of traffic. And not only that, the persons that just come from Spanish Town, persons that are coming from Clarendon, persons that are coming from St. Anne, and